What's going on YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here bringing you another video. Today I'm bringing you a video on Uchuu Sentai Kyuranger episode 41. This episode is the first episode in the final arc of the story, and the episode is called Rushing Planet Southern Crux. And what happens is, or Southern Cross, and what happens in this episode is the Kyurangers finally break on through to the Southern Crux system. But there's a lot more to it that happens in this episode. New villains were introduced, character that we've seen before, but we finally get to see them in full view, and it's a big deal also occurs. We'll get into that towards the end, but it's still very interesting. So let's begin by talking about the episode itself. For starters, what does happen is that the Kyurangers, as we know previously, they've been trying to get the 4 Kyotama that they need to unlock the Southern Crux barrier. And what happens is that now that they have it, they have to split up into the 4, mechas that they have. So, Super Kurano, Orion Battler, Giganto Ho, and Ryoteo have to be used to unlock the barrier by going to 4 different locations and using the Kyotama there. So what happens is that each of them use it, and the thing is that the question they have to ask is, who is going to control Super Kurano? Who's going to make up the body? Well, what they decide to do is they put Garou in charge of it, because Garou has a deep connection with Caesar, because both of them really care for Lucky, and they understand each other for some reason. Not really clear exactly as to how they understand each other, but they do. So anyway, what ends up happening is that Garou cares a lot about Lucky, same with Caesar, and the Kyurangers get into the mechas. They end up having to fight some consumerist ships, and also they have to fight one of the prototype champs, and they do that, and eventually they unlock the barrier. But the thing is that even though they unlock the barrier, they can't get to the main part of the planet that they're looking for. So what happens is that after they break the barrier, which leads to the barrier shattering, the Kyurangers celebrate initially, but then they find out that there's another gate in their way, which is called the Hell's Gate. So they have to break that, which is something that's not so simple, because what they decide to do is they have to use a cloaking Kyotama to keep them hidden so that they don't get attacked, the Orion Battler. So, the Orion Battleship. So what they end up having to do is they use that Kyotama, and they only have 30 minutes to go in, unlock the gate, so that the Orion Battler can get into the Southern Crux system's main location where Don Homage is based. So what happens is that everyone, aside from Balance, which has happened again, that happened last time, it happens again now, pretty much everyone goes down, like most of them go down to the Southern Crux system to deal with a lot of endeavors, some new monsters, and some other things. So the teams actually get to split up. I believe it's like 10 and 10. Like Show and Balance stay up in the Orion Battleship, but everyone else goes down. So what I believe what happens is that at first everyone's fighting a bunch of endeavors, but then what happens is that they end up splitting up, where they have it that Kotaro, Champ, Garou, and I'm forgetting who else. There's a couple of the others. Basically everyone that I don't say here, like I'm forgetting specifically right now, but a bunch of the others, like Spada is part of it, and then there's one other one that I'm forgetting right now. I think it's Raptor. Fight a bunch of the endeavors while the others go off. So that includes Lucky, Saruji, Stinger, Hammy, and Naga go to look for the gate. And as they fight some endeavors, they eventually get to the enemy for the system, or the minister, which is the Southern King. Now, the Southern King originally ruled the Southern Crux planet, But what happened is that Don Armage came into control, and then the Southern King pledged his allegiance to Don Armage, and he gave up his planet to him. So what ended up so he ends up fighting the Kyurangers, and at one point he uses an ability which leads to illusions, where they end up having experiences with regret about their past. The only one that we actually get to see really are like Lucky and also Tsurugi, because like Tsurugi, we initially see him being blamed for killing Kiervo, when in reality he didn't kill him, but it creates this whole illusion of like his hands being covered in blood and he being the one that had killed him when he really didn't, because like the illusions are all false, but they come across as very real to them. But Lucky, see, like everyone ends up panicking, but Lucky doesn't. Lucky sees his father, and his father at first says, like, I've pledged my allegiance to Don Armage, that is why I'm still here, and he says, like, come join me. And at that point, what happens is that his father, Aslan, ends up beating up all of his friends, and his father ends up saying to him, come on, Lucky, join me. And Lucky doesn't want to do it, and he says only the weak would not join me in this. The powerful would rule the world. Why don't you join me? And eventually Lucky realizes that this isn't his father. This is fake. This is not really his father, because his father would never give up his people. So what ends up happening is that he ends up breaking through the illusion, and then the Kyurangers, all of them, also break through it, and they begin to fight the Southern King. In the meantime, what ends up happening is that the other Kyurangers are having to deal with the Endeavors, and at one point we get introduced to this new villain. Now, I forgot to mention this earlier because he is introduced even earlier when they break the barrier. There's this new villain with a very unique samurai-like look to him, and he is going after Shishi Red, which is Lucky. So Garu and the others have to fend off this guy and hold him off so that he can't get to Lucky, and they do it for a while, but they get really, 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 really beaten up. Anyway, back to the other Kyurangers. They get into a battle with the Southern King. They do different attacks. Naga does his paralysis move. Stinger does his jabs with his tail. Everyone does something, and eventually and eventually what happens is that the Kyurangers that, like, everyone except for Lucky goes to the gate because they're running out of time. And so what happens is that they go to the gate, they realize that they need to use the 4 Kilotama at the 4 pillars to open up the gate so that the Orion battleship can get through. So what they do is they end up dealing with that. In the meantime, Lucky transforms into Shishi Red Orion mode and begins to attack the Southern King. The Southern King tries to use the illusion move, but this time what happens is that since Lucky has the ability to teleport and stuff, he uses that ability to actually switch himself for the Southern King, and the Southern King is put under his own illusion, where he sees Don Armage very angry at him and trying to kill him, basically. So eventually the Southern King is destroyed, and the Kyurangers do open up the gate. Following this, the Kyurangers return back to the ship, and they head there, but when they head there, they find the other Kyurangers that had been beaten up by this mysterious figure, and this mysterious figure sees Lucky, and he's like, she Red Orion, and he starts going after him and charging at him, and Garu tries to fend him off, but he then is slashed and taken down really hard to the point that he is knocked out. Really, really devastating blow. And following this, Lucky gets really angry about the situation. He begins to attack. Everyone tries to get to safety because everyone is very, very much so injured. And Tsurugi tries to hold off Lucky, but eventually Lucky does do an attack that does some serious damage, and so does this mysterious figure. So when they do that, both of them de-transform, And it turns out, we see Lucky detransform, but then this mysterious figure, his face is revealed, and it turns out that it's Lucky's father. Lucky's father is alive. As we thought, and we heard originally, Lucky's father was dead. Apparently he is alive, but I don't know why things were the way they were. So, in other words, Lucky isn't king, he is king, but it'll be interesting to see what will happen now since his father's alive, but he's evil in this case. Now, of course, what we can imagine is down the line he'll eventually be turned back to human, and he might become king, or maybe Lucky will continue to be king. We don't know yet. But that's something interesting. So anyway, Lucky and his father are really happy to see each other, but at the same time, what we do see is Don Ramage is controlling him and making him attack his son, and eventually his darker half comes through, which is being controlled by Don Ramage, and so at that point, Lucky has to get going, and the Kyurangers return to the ship. Everyone is beaten up really badly, and Lucky is full of rage and annoyed at the fact that his father is in the state he is, everyone's in the state that they are in, and it's just not a good situation. So it's a really, really crazy, intense episode. I really liked it a lot. It's building up a lot of intensity, and we're really into the later half of the show now, so it should be interesting to see how things will progress next episode. What we do see in the preview clip is we're going to still have Lucky fighting his father in his monster mode, and we also get to see something which isn't really highlighted, but it's totally a thing. The three Vice Shogun that we've seen several times, Akibamba, Kakugura, and Techu, in the next episode get combined together, and the Kyurangers have to fight the combined form of them turn big. So they don't have it when they're small, but apparently later in the episode, for episode 42, they have to fight a combined version of the three of them. So I would imagine their abilities, their appearance, everything is combined into one thing, which is really cool concept, and that should be the complete end of the Vice Shogun. We thought that they were done. Nope, they're back, and then they're back again. It's they just keep on coming back in different forms, but this should be the final episode of them entirely. So keep that in mind. Pretty crazy, but I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I personally did enjoy it. I can't wait to see how next episode will play out. Again, we're getting into the thick of the story. There should be no more filler episodes. It should be all major story points for the rest of the show, I would imagine, because we're on the Southern Cross planet. We're not doing things to get there. We're there. We're there now. They've opened up the gate. Next episode will be them where Don Ramage should be and all that. And I believe episode 43, what I've heard is that apparently we're going to find out who really is Don Ramage. So that's going to be really cool. So keep that in mind. Please remember to comment, subscribe. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So till then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye, guys.